It's Boochacha.
Live long and prosper. This is Jeff.
Hey, Jeffrey. Quite a bit going on in the world of nerd lately. But where shall we start, sir?
Wait, what? There's good news?
Wait. There is good news?
Which is good because last time there was no good news.
No, I was seriously fucking bummed, dude. I ain't about that.
All right, first story. No backdoor action. Let me tell.
I like where this is going.
Let me tell you about Jun Fang. Jun Fang pled guilty to a conspiracy to attempt to distribute methamphetamines. Fang had an iPhone 5S, which comes loaded with the Apple iOS 7 operating system. In the past, that hadn't been a major problem. As an official from the Department of Homeland Security testified, law enforcement has a device to easily run through every possible passcode to unlock an iPhone. But Fang's phone was configured to erase all its data if someone unsuccessfully tried 10 times in a row to unlock it.
Man, that could be devastating.
Oh, yeah, they can't spy on you. They actually have to catch you in the act. When questioned about the new security measures, lawyers from Apple released a statement stating, in most cases now and in the future, the government's request orders will be substantially burdensome as it will be impossible to perform. Future operating systems like iOS 8 and the current iOS 9 are designed to be impenetrable even by Apple staff. So that's cool.
Okay.
The Apple protects users' privacy and undoubtedly part of its business model. One U.S. attorney argued that it was more concerned with public perception than helping catch criminals.
Yeah.
Around the time the transcript was taken, CEO Tim Cook was upping his comments on the privacy, declaring that the company would refuse to create backdoors into the encrypted messaging services.
Well, how a fucking looyah. Freedom and liberty to all.
Well, because there's this new law in Vermont that just if you drive in Vermont, you basically have no assumption of privacy on your phone. They can just check it.
In Bernie Sanders' state? What the fuck?
Well, they're trying to fight it, but
it seems pretty devious.
Well, it's supposed to be able to see if you've been texting while driving.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but how about this? Subpoena the fucking cell phone records when, probable cause is presented in a court of law. That's just like
so old fashioned.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't realize we were living in a police state, y'all. Get your guns.
And our next story, General Motors said on Thursday it was creating a team to speed up development of self-driving and electric cars as it moves to expand its lineup of such vehicles. Nice.
Wait, hold it. You don't know how often. Okay, even when I was in college, same kind of thing in high school. My circadian rhythms are set in a certain pattern, and every day about 2 p.m., I just get really fucking sleepy, and that lasts until 4. And I made the mistake once of taking an hour and a half philosophy class, the history of modern philosophy, mind you, between the hours of 2 and 3:30, and man, was that a struggle. But anyway, so here I'm trying to drive home, roughly 4 o'clock, and I have the worst fucking time trying to fall asleep. And I have hoped for this day since I began driving. I'm like, why can't somebody just drive me home? I take a 20-minute nap.
I hate when you're driving home and all of a sudden your eyes start rolling back in your head. You're like, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Don't die.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this, too.
Yeah, we could just take naps wherever we go.
Yes.
All right, cool. Now, what are you talking about? People are just going to be on their cell phones the whole time.
That's true. Watching TV.
Playing Flappy Birds or whatever the game of the moment is. Wasting their lives. Probably
beaten off. We'll get into that story later.
See, I was going to say something about that, but I was waiting.
In a related story, the Obama administration on Thursday called for $4 billion of spending on self-driving cars. The investment, which would be budgeted over a 10-year period, will be used to accelerate the development and adoption of safe vehicle automation through real-world pilot projects. Transportation.
I think we just found a new, the United States Postal Service is already in such danger of going under. I mean, can you imagine if just mail cars could just drive around and just shoot out people's mail?
Drones,
baby. Drones. Okay. I'm sorry. Continue on.
That's okay. Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox, in a speech at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, promised a series of initiatives aimed at solving the considerable technological and legal challenges that could otherwise slow the rollout and adoption of self-driving vehicles. There is some question as to just how safe self-driving cars will be. A study by the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute found that self-driving vehicles have a higher crash rate per million miles traveled than conventional vehicles. However, most of those accidents were caused by human drivers slamming into the computer-controlled cars.
Yeah, it's human fuck-ups.
Yeah, suggesting people still have not adjusted yet to sharing the roads with autonomic cars.
It's people are having a hard time driving around things that you can flip off but won't be offended or affected in any way possible.
Well, it's like, you're driving the speed limit, man. You're going to get run over.
Yeah, that's true. All right. And next.
Medical marijuana is back on the ballot. The Florida Division of Elections confirmed that medical marijuana amendment got enough petition signatures to be on the ballot in November. The measure will amend Florida's constitution to allow doctors to prescribe medical marijuana to individuals with debilitating medical conditions. So I don't think it's be like, ow, my back hurts or I'm a little stressed out. It's probably going to be like, well, sure, we'll give you some pot if you're dying.
All right. That's bullshit, man. I'm not saying that, I mean, who's going to define debilitating? I mean, really? Obviously, this should already be a thing in the whole fucking world, but,
yeah.
I mean, who's to say one person's pain is like, oh, you scored an 89 on the pain level. I need you at 100. Sorry. Fuck off. No dope for you.
Suck it up, pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
The measure was brought by People United for Medical Marijuana, a group led by attorney John Morgan.
Oh, yeah.
The same group,
Morgan for the people.
Morgan and Morgan. Ooh. I always think of, Marley and Marley from Jim Henson's The Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
This same group tried to get an amendment passed in 2014, but it only got 57.6% of the vote.
It needs 60%.
Although that's the majority of voters, a Florida Constitution amendment needs 60%.
That's bullshit, Jabra.
Currently, if Florida allows only low THC versions of marijuana for patients, called Charlotte's Web.
Well, that's cute.
Or they have this new thing called CBD oil. It's from industrial hemp instead of marijuana. So that's legal in all 50 states, baby.
Speaking of which, and since you have already come out and said that it's legal in all 50 states, what's your status on that?
CBD oil?
Yeah.
I think it's going to do a lot of people a lot of good.
Oh, okay.
There is a chance the constitutional amendment may be a moot point. There are bills in the Florida House and Senate that would expand medical marijuana usage in Florida already. And so, like I said, all 50 states, CBD oil, get some. So until marijuana is at least decriminalized.
Oh, see, that's the thing. Like, I'm just wondering how well that stuff actually works, the CBD oil.
Yeah, we'll have to find out sometime.
I think there needs to be a study done by qualified academic individuals to determine this.
Qualified Buchachas and Jeffries.
Yeah, the Buchacha Jeffrey firm. Maybe.
And there's no prescription necessary with a CBD oil. So
it almost seems too good to be true. I mean, come on, man.
Well, I have a map in front of me of the, where marijuana is legal and where it's not.
I am also looking at this map.
And it's amazing. It's like, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, you can kind of see. It's like, oh, yeah. They full legalization. But then you have this conservative bastion of Alaska. Not only do they have
they're pretty open about that shit there. They're very libertarian up that way.
Well, and also socialists. They get money from the every citizen gets money from the oil,
like a stipend for the oil or whatever. I've heard that they're not going to be getting it for the next year or two because of the how far oil prices have fallen or some shit like that.
Well, that was socialism.
Socialism?
Dirty word.
Oh, man.
But medical marijuana is also approved. Not medical. Marijuana is approved there for recreational usage.
Yes, you just have to grow your own.
Yeah, which I guess if you're in Alaska, I mean, what else you got to do during certain times of the year?
You're snowed in. Grow some marijuana, y'all.
So basically,
I'm actually surprised that our home state medical marijuana is fully authorized.
You still have to grow your own, though.
In Michigan?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That ain't that complicated.
Well, it might be that complicated for somebody who really, really needs it,
Well, that's true.
It's like, I'm confined to a wheelchair. Tough shit,
it's
grow
funny.
Your own.
I've been watching that show on Netflix about how, the shit, I don't even remember the name for it at this point, but there's a couple who opened up a medical marijuana shop in Colorado, sort of banking on the fact that it would turn over to recreational use in a few years. And have you heard about this show?
Well, yeah, I was watching it over at your house.
Oh, that's right. Anyway, I mean, it's just interesting to see how, there are various lists. In fact, George Takei's Facebook posted a list of the next top 10 states that are going to legalize for recreational or whatever. And Michigan was actually pretty high on the list because of the openness to the medical use. But
it's like cancer patients haven't started going crazy and jumping out of windows.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm saying investment opportunities are apparently available for those who would research these things. But of course, to be more magnanimous about it, I think for medical, like what John Morgan says, and he actually, I think he was interviewed on NPR actually, or I heard him interviewed on something else when he was actually talking about how his brother was dying of cancer and how the marijuana was basically a miracle drug for the guy. It's like, that's it. Like how many people that I think anybody over a certain age for the most part has been around someone or has known a loved one who's had to go through that. Man, you wouldn't wish that shit on your worst fucking enemy. So why are you depriving them of some little bit of relief before they go?
Yeah, well, I just
because of it's like it's just fucking morality vacuum. But anyway,
yeah, I just wrote a little piece for Sovcast, talking about, and I call that out the war on drugs for what it is. It's a political fundraising.
Then I think action. Big pharma is lining the pockets too. I mean, how many symptoms and conditions does this plant, which grows in the wild? I mean, I will say, we're from Michigan. I remember having friends at the high school that we went to who had it growing wild in their backyard just like, oh shit, there it is. I remember walking around the Adirondacks of upstate New York, hiking, oh shit, there's a bunch of marijuana. It just grows wild fucking everywhere. So you can imagine how much Big Pharma does not want this to happen because their
Not to
profit
mention-
shares would be decimated.
Not to mention the private prison industrial complex,
That's true too. Fuck these people. All right,
and
continuing
anyways,
on.
let's hope legalization continues throughout the United States. It'd be nice if they just did a federal thing. I think Bernie Sanders, if he gets elected, is going to try to do something like that.
You know what? Yeah, fuck yes. Dude.
Feel the burn.
All right, anyway. Continuing on, sir.
We have the Iron Druid Chronicles.
Oh, are we ready for the main kinky?
Yes, my wife just gave me a thumbs up. She likes those books too.
Is she putting is it a thumbs up because she loves her some Iron Druid?
Yep, and some Oberon.
Yeah, and so how shall we talk about this in our because I think for those who do listen to our show, there are probably not a lot of people who listen who have actually heard of Kevin Hearne. That's Kevin. Mostly you people know how to spell Kevin. Hearne is Hearne, who writes this set of books called the Iron Druid Chronicles. The main plot and characters are, of course, Atticus O'Sullivan or Sheerhan. And isn't his last name something I always just gloss over his real last name. But anyway,
Sheerhan.
Yeah, Sheerhan. So, Atticus for most people and most of the time in the books, is a 2,000-year-old druid who is able to, sustain his life through his magic. And he's also the last one left in the beginning of this series.
Yep.
Kevin
Last
Hearne
druid left.
he planned it to be a 9-book series. And the reason why we are talking about it is, number one, hey, we're talking about it. Hopefully we'll talk about some things that excite people, and we'll also move people in the direction of, hey, maybe I should pick up this book and read it because books are cool and cool books are even cooler. But anyway,
Yes.
He just released the 8th book in the series last week. On the 26th, I think it was. Or was that last Friday? Anyway, he was actually in Orlando. I don't know if you saw that last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going to get out and work in time and then go drive over there. They're just, damn it. I was hoping he'd come a little closer, but good enough, I suppose. I'm sure there's a huge ass line anyway. At least I hope there was, because his books are fairly popular. Anyway,
well, let me read the synopsis for the first book.
Okay, do it.
Hounded introduces the character of Atticus O'Sullivan, the last druid, and proprietor of Third Eye Books and Herbs, a cult shop. He draws his power from the earth, possesses a sharp wit, and wields an even sharper sword, magical sword known as Fragara, the Answerer. So that's what Fragara means in Old Irish, the Answerer.
Yep.
He lives and works in Tempe, Arizona, but Hounded takes place in an alternative history where magic, vampires, werewolves, gods, and other supernatural elements exist, but in hiding. The story begins with a series of godly events set off by O'Sullivan's magic sword.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess we can go ahead and start talking about this because we have to be careful. We don't want to be spoilery. Hardly at all.
Sure. I wasn't sure how bad we were gonna.
No. I think we have to treat this one with kid gloves, just because I think the vast majority of those who are going to listen are probably not familiar with the series. But I will say this: that I had a very interesting set of circumstances in which I first read these novels. So I'm going to tell you the story, and I think I've told you the story before anyway. But this was actually it was a series recommended by a friend of mine, and I looked it up, and people always recommend books to me, and I'm just like, I don't know, the cover art looks kind of like the cover art's good, but it looked like it might be like YA romancy kind of art, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly.
So I was wary going, looking at this book. I'm like, you know what though? The premise of this first book looks fucking great. So, I've long said, like, I don't believe in the idea of reincarnation, but I often tell people, because I love nature and hiking and going out and things like that, that I'm a reincarnated druid, and I just love to go out and hug trees and shit. So that, that it's, the appeal was built in for me just because the word druid was thrown out, and I love me some history, so I'm like, oh, well, it's a great opportunity, because the character will talk about some history, talk about druids. I mean, it was a win-win proposition.
Mythology.
Mythology and things like that. I didn't know how much mythology was going to be in it when I first looked at it. But anyway, I actually downloaded this book to my Kindle. I downloaded the first book to my Kindle the day before I left to actually go to Ireland, the summer of 2014.
Cool. That's awesome.
And of course, Atticus O'Sullivan is an Irish druid. He's not one of the other Celtic druids from Britain or further south in the continent. So there was, and of course, this was about, the first several books are very much tinged with Irish mythology and mythological characters and gods and goddesses. So I started reading Hounded, the plane trip over, and like a touchdown in Shannon, Ireland, and it was just like game fucking on. And so I was in Ireland Ireland itself for about a week. And I had already gotten to the third book in the series, because I just was reading it voraciously that whole time. And, from Ireland, I went to Scotland. And so, you still got the Celtic thing going on. And so I remember sitting there. I finally got to a hostel in Edinburgh where they actually had a Wi-Fi that you could use. And so I downloaded the next several books or whatever. And I even got an audio version of the book download, since I had a good connection, and was listening to it. And of course, the series is read by a guy named Luke Daniels, and I cannot recommend him highly enough as
he does a great
reader.
Job.
Oh my!
Yes.
I've never really heard of him for anything else. He's not like James Marsters reading the Jim Butcher Dresden Files book. I mean, everybody knows James Marsters from Buffy and a bunch of the other stuff that he does. But this is
he does a good job reading too.
Yeah, he does. But like Luke Daniels, just how he does these characters, I could not imagine them any other way. So here I was in Edinburgh, and I finally hearing Oberon's voice, and it's just like, oh my god, that's like. When you're reading the books, right? I don't vocalize. I don't know if you're the same way. When I read, I usually just read, I'm reading, I read through it. I don't really vocalize characters' voices in my head.
Oh, I do.
Do you? I only do it for some things in some instances, I guess. But I never really, I just didn't get the feel for how Oberon should sound. And then of course he starts doing some of the Oberon parts. And okay, we should probably clarify who Oberon is. And I don't think this is spoilery at the least, because you find out who he is in the first chapter, basically. Oberon is Atticus's Irish wolfhound, and his Irish wolfhound he named, of course, after the King of Fairies in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. And Oberon is a sentient dog whose life is prolonged by Atticus's magic, and that he's the comic relief in those stories. I mean, Atticus is funny sometimes,
definitely,
but Oberon is what makes it. I'm going to put him up there with Scooby-Doo. Okay. I know that's like high praise, but in terms of like the coolest fictional dogs in the world, I mean, it's like Scooby-Doo and fucking Oberon. All right.
Well, Luke Daniels does the voice. It reminds me of Buddy Hackett.
Oh, yeah. I can see it.
You remember what Master Yoda said about the future? It's always in motion. Difficult to see. That's right. Come on, let's keep moving. But keep an eye out and your nose in the wind. All right, but I think you should cheat. I don't want to be a part of the circle of life here. Hey, speaking of which, is this the stretch of Africa where meerkats hang out with warthogs and sing cheerful songs about stress-free living? Tell you what, If you see them, I'll let you join in. Aces.
It was funny because, like I said, I was in Ireland, and I think it was in the county Kerry, and we actually, it was the weirdest. I mean, I don't know how common Irish wolfhounds are actually in Ireland, but I actually stopped at a place, and they had a pen with like 4 Irish wolfhounds. When I was actually like reading that book, I'm like, oh my god, that's Oberon! It was pretty cool. I don't think a lot of readers probably have the same sort of relationship with the books they're reading that I don't know. It was in the perfect set of circumstances. So I know I enjoyed them because the circumstances were augmenting what I was reading. But like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I read up to book 4, I think, by the time I left, and came back and did 5, 6, 7, and of course 8 just came. Well, I think 6, that's what it was, and of course 8 just came out last week. But
now, is it in the first book or the second book where he has where the main character Atticus has sex with death, basically?
Oh, the Morgan, the Irish, the Irish chooser of the slain. I want to say that's not. No, it's not the first book. I don't think so. It's after he gets really he gets hurt somehow. And I don't even remember how, but she basically just rapes him to make him better.
Yeah, it's like really rough bondage sex, and she uses that to.
But that's the thing, though. Like, even though there are a few parts like that in this series, it's actually pretty clean. There are a few swear words here and there, but I think for the most part, Iron Druid Chronicles are fairly tame in their presentation of mature matters.
Well, I was just bringing up that the weird sense of humor, because he's like terrified the whole time.
Yeah.
He's having sex with her. She's always talking about killing people and plucking out their eyes.
Which is its own brand of comedy. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, the Morgan's pretty funny.
Yeah, that whole stuff. But anyway, okay, so let's go through. Let's not say too much about each book, but see, we have Hounded as book 1, Hexed as book 2, and as you might surmise from the title, Hexed is when he's going up against some witches. Hammered. I don't think it's very spoilery to tell this. It's of course we know that probably the most famous of hammer wielders in mythology is Thor. So, as you might guess, anyway, that book has something to do with Thor. Then we have Tricked.
Turns out that Thor is kind of a dick.
Yeah. You actually learned that, I think, in book 1 that Thor is a bit of a bastard. And of course, you get more of that in Hammered. We should also say that, like we said, mature matters are actually presented somewhat tamely. However, matters of religion, Mr. Hearne is very even-handed about it, although he does not show deference toward any of them, except for maybe the Irish ones, of course, because the main character is bound to the Irish deities. But anyway,
are we going to talk about Jesus?
Yeah, I was going to throw it out there. There's a great scene in one of the books, and the funny thing is, I actually remember where I was and what I was doing, when I read that scene. I was actually at a pub, outside of Dublin, Ireland, when I was just like sitting there waiting, I was just going through my Kindle reading that scene, and oh my God, I was laughing so hard at that. Yeah. So Jesus does show up and has some conversations with Atticus. But anyway, the 4th book is Tricked, which actually has to do with some Native American mythology. I don't want to say too much about it in any case. But then we have, scrolling down. Oh,
well, you have to mention a character that comes up in a lot of the books, Coyote.
Oh, yeah. Coyote,
which
of course,
is an important trickster god of a lot of Native American cultures.
Yes, and he, of course, plays a very prominent role, especially in Tricked, that 4th book,
which is pretty funny as well.
So I'm gonna say the next few here, and we can talk about which ones are favorites and which ones you thought that maybe have been the weakest in the weakest entry in the series. See if we agree. I'm curious because I haven't had a lot of conversations with people about this series. It's because I don't think it's quite that widely known yet. Although he definitely has a following, that's for sure. So I'm serious what kind of conversations we can get started about it as well. But anyway, the fifth book is called Trapped, and I'm definitely not going to say much about that because there's too much to give away. The seventh one is Hunted, and I'm the the sixth one is Hunted, and the seventh one is Shattered, and the most recent one that came out last week is called Staked. And as you might surmise, and it's very obvious from the cover of Atticus holding a stake that this most recent book has something to do with vampires.
Well, I think we can give it away. It's given away fairly quickly in the first book that, and it's funny, Atticus's lawyer is a vampire.
And
his lawyer's literally a bloodsucker.
Yeah, his lawyer's literally a bloodsucker, and he works in a law firm populated by werewolves.
Yes.
So awesome. Yeah, there's any kind of mythology out there is pretty much thrown into the mix and is fair game for the Iron Druid Chronicles. And I even love there's this little part where Atticus talks about how he met Neil Gaiman and how it was the only time in his life that he ever squeed. And I'm like, because when I was first reading these books in Ireland, I'm like, oh, this is reminding me so much of American Gods and Anansi Boys, and and finally, like when I got to that part where he was talking about Neil Gaiman, I'm like, oh, like I felt like we were all in on the same joke, and cause like he's acknowledging, I guess, Neil Gaiman as sort of the forefather of this, mishmash of mythology, literature that this is part of, and I thought that was pretty good, especially since.
And as we talked last time, I need to read some fucking Neil Gaiman.
Obviously, I can't believe you haven't read Neil Gaiman. You call yourself a nerd. Anyway, all right, Jeffrey. Which ones are okay? You said you have or have not started the most recent one.
I have.
You have. What chapter are you on?
Shit, I can't remember. Just had the scene in the music hall.
Oh, the
German guy,
the life sucker dude,
the life leech. Yep, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so you're pretty early on, but still not. You're into it. I think I'm on like chapter 23 right now. Yeah, it's. I just got like I'm at a part, man. I'm at a part. Like I don't want to tell you, obviously. I don't want to tell anybody else, but there's certain things that have happened, and whatever. All right. So we don't want to say obviously too much about that, especially since it's the 8th book of a 9-book series. But let's talk about which ones are your favorites. Pick 2 to be your faves.
Oh man. That's hard to do because I tend to judge a story as a whole, when
it's very
books.
serialized. However, each book has its own little theme and its own thing going on. I mean, Hounded, of course, is the intro, and you have much of the Irish bit going on there as far as the deities go, and the antagonists, and the Hexed, you have the witches as antagonists. Hammered, you have some of the Norse stuff as antagonists. Tricked, you have Native American, I would say the monsters, I guess, as antagonists.
Skinwalkers.
Yeah. And then, Trapped, you have, you got a lot of druidy things going on. And then you also have it kind of like a return. I guess the antagonist
they start incorporating the Olympian gods.
Yeah. Which are mentioned pretty early on in the first book. This is not really talked about. Then I guess there's a Roman god who's an antagonist in that one. And then, of course, the Roman gods are also an antagonist, or antagonists, plural, and Hunted. And then, of course, Shattered, you get,
well, as it goes,
I'm going to throw this character out there because it would be a mistake not to mention this character, because I'm pretty sure at this point in book 8 of the series that of all the characters, he is my favorite, and that's Owen Kennedy.
I raised my right sleeve over my shoulder, revealing the ravaged tattoo at the top of my biceps. A manticore destroyed my ability to shapeshift back to human, so I can't shift to any of my animal forms until it gets fixed. Would you mind touching it up? He scowled and flared up. I feckin' taught you how to tame a manticore, didn't I? Don't try to tell me I didn't. That isn't my fault. I didn't say, and I remember you complaining about it too. He affected a falsetto to mock me. When am I ever gonna meet a manticore? You said. Why do I have to learn Latin? When are we gonna learn about sex rituals? Hey, I never said that. You didn't have to. There was a year you couldn't sneak up on anyone because your knob would peek around the corner first, and everyone would say, "Here comes Sheahan," and then the rest of ye would follow. You remember that?
Owen O'Canady.
Owen O'Canady. Yeah, I fucking love that character. I mean,
my wife thinks he's hilarious. Yes.
Yeah, I gravitate towards the curmudgeons anyway because I aspire to be curmudgeonly. I'm middle aged obviously at the moment, but I'm working on it now. God damn it.
The Lord's got itself in a big fucking hurry.
Yeah. Of course, this is Luke Daniels who's narrating the story, and he of course he does the Irish accent. Owen Kennedy is a druid who's a little older. We won't say where he comes from or what his role in the story is, but what you do need to know is that the dude is curmudgeonly to the max, and obviously a very talented druid as well. And
he loves to fight for fun.
Yes, and you can follow him. You can actually follow his Twitter on I think it's Archdruid Owen at Archdruid Owen. Isn't that what his Twitter handle is?
I can't remember. Doesn't Oberon have one?
Yeah,
too?
and Oberon has one too. Both of which are hilarious to follow. But there was a great meta moment in Staked, the most recent book, and I'm gonna throw this out there because it's not a spoiler at all, really, in which Owen is able to work in his Twitter account and sort of plug it in the story. I thought it was pretty brilliant. Really? Yeah, it's actually a brilliant little plug of Owen's. Because he's actually talking about his Twitter handle, and of course, Kevin Hearne writes the Twitter handle in the character of Owen Kennedy, and it was a very clever way. I hope he's proud of himself for having written that little scene. But anyway, all right. So come on, man.
My favorite, I guess, it would have to probably be Hexed and Hammered.
Hexed and Hammered are your favorites, really?
I don't know.
See, like I actually think they've gotten progressively better for the most part, but you went pretty early in the series.
I even include all, like I said, I look at it as a whole, and I even include all the little side stories, which are really good.
That's right. Those? He does. He has several short stories to read. Yeah. Like Grimoire of the Lamb, and
that's exactly what I was thinking of. That one.
There's the one where he's looking for the Holy Grail. Oh shit! I don't remember the name of that one, but yeah, you're right. That's actually something else that we should plug as well. As he has some anthologies out there with short stories in it.
A fun house, kind of a freak show fun house that's full of real monsters.
Yeah. Several good ones. And I think he actually mentions something in this latest book of a short story. I think he put out over the summer, and I haven't read that one. I think it came out in a collection that I just haven't gotten a hold of, and I haven't read it yet. But I almost
find it. Yeah. Track it down.
Yeah, it's a scene in this book. I'm like, oh wait, what happened? Like, who's this person? Because it's an entirely new character. I was like, oh, where the fuck she come from? But apparently she's in this short story that came out earlier. Anyway, so you're going with those two, huh?
Not really. I don't know. You made me pick.
I did make you pick, motherfucker. All right, Lee.
I like the series as a whole.
Oh, you're such a
cop out. I know.
You're a fucking pussy, sir. No medical marijuana for you. Your enjoyment level apparently is not high enough.
Well, that's okay. I want recreational anyways.
All right. All right. My favorites are actually Trapped and Hunted. And
Those are good.
Not just because I'm obsessed with all things Roman, but actually I love the pacing of those stories, and I actually love some of the circumstances of those stories. But I think Hunted's probably, like, if I had to pick the one that I like the best, it's probably Hunted.
It's like the ultimate chase story.
It is, and obviously it's meant to go fast, and I don't know if that's why I enjoyed it so well or whatever. But there's you can't really say too much about it, but there are some things that happened that I thought were pretty good, and yeah. So I'll just say this: several things from the earlier books kind of come to a head in that book. And you can actually, I think that's the first book where you can actually see where the full story is going, and where some of the other references and the other things that have happened sort of tie together.
And somewhere around there, I think, is where they start to introduce the idea of Ragnarok.
Yeah, right. Which of course is playing out.
Which is the equivalent of the Norse Revelations.
Right, the apocalypse. It's the Norse apocalypse. Yes. Indeed. All right, do you have a least favorite?
No, not really.
Really? There's one
They're
book.
all my special.
There's actually one book I can't stand.
Which one?
I shouldn't say can't stand. There's one, I like it. I just don't like it nearly as well as the other. To me, it's the most disjunctive of the entire series. It just doesn't quite fit with the rest of the story. Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you picked that up right away. It just seemed like,
'cause it is
what?
It is kind of like it's a break in the story.
It is. It's too much of a break.
I still liked it though.
Like I said, I still like it, but I also did not like the antagonist, and I think that's probably the foundation of my beef, is that the antagonists, they literally have no personality. There's nothing. They're just monsters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least with the main antagonist in book one, you're like, oh man, that guy's a fucking douchebag. Go get him, Atticus. With these other ones, you're just like, oh, yeah, okay. You just like exterminated some pests, basically. Some very rabid pests, but, yeah, like that. Yeah, that was, that one was the weak entry for me, but,
I like the Skinwalker from the Dresden Files better.
Oh, there's, I'm only on book 4 of Dresden right now. It's funny because this Iron Druid Chronicles and Dresden Files, apparently, from those of you who've done both completely, sort of go hand in hand. But I've actually had a harder time getting through I like them. I actually like them considerably. Very different style of writing. Although the genre, of course, urban fantasy is one of the same. But it's been much slower going for me. Whereas I started this, Iron Druid Staked last Friday, and I have a full-time job with kids, and here I am on Thursday, almost a week later, and I'm almost done with it. So I've been getting through it pretty quickly.
Well, the Dresden Files are funny, but it's a little less slapstickish.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot more humor in the Dresden Files, but I think there's more complexity in the Dresden Files for sure.
Oh yeah,
the mythos of the Dresden Files is so very, very rich, and it relies on previous mythologies much less, although it definitely does draw from it, and obviously very, very good books in their own right. It's just funny how much I consume, how quickly I consume these Iron Druid books as opposed to those. But you know what? I'm on summer night, goddammit. I'm going to get through it, and we are going to talk about it on another installment of Kinky Dawn.
There's only 15 of them, so.
I'm on book 4. Whereas I read, Iron Druid Chronicles I read the first 4 books in a week.
Damn.
Yeah, well, because I was on a bus much of that time and traveling, and I had lots of downtime to sit there and read, but it just, you finish half the series and within about a week. Yeah, they're good books, and I like the characters I'm much more attached to the characters than what I've read in the Dresden Files so far, but my wife assures me, who's, like one of the biggest Dresden nuts out there, that eventually, I will be as attached to some of the characters in that series as I am to some of the Iron Druid characters.
They introduce, it seems like every character, some series they can introduce too many characters and gets muddled. And
it does, right.
Dilutes the work. Jim Butcher, when he adds more characters, they harmonize well, and it becomes more in depth, and his character interactions are really good.
His work's definitely so far. It feels like he's weaving a complex tapestry, and the Iron Druid Chronicles seem much more linear in that regard.
Have you even met Butters yet?
No, but I know who he is because that's the other thing. The wife, I don't think she means to be passive aggressive about it, but she'll just like drop spoilers about that shit. Like, yeah, whatever, fuck off. You should have read them all by now.
Well, Polka will never die.
Yeah. She also says something about that too. Oh wait, but because Butters is actually in the show, but he's not the same Butters, I guess, from the book series. But Butters is like the ME, right?
Yeah,
medical examiner. Okay.
All right. Well, do we have anything more to say about the Iron Druid Chronicles?
We need to talk a little bit about where we might guess without trying to be spoilery about it. There's one book left, dude. One book left, according to Kevin Hearne, of the Iron Druid Chronicles. And so, where do we think this is going?
Ragnarok.
Okay, so yeah,
Loki's going down, motherfucker.
It does sort of seem the obvious final book. There's going to be something about Ragnarok. Any guesses as to who might be some major players? Because we actually don't know who's on the bad side yet. I mean, there's one character in Staked. You're like, oh, well, that guy who I never knew until just now, and he's dead. Shit, never mind. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, we really don't know who's aligned with Loki on the bad side for Ragnarok.
Are you talking about the main vampire guy?
Well, obviously, I'm not finished with Staked yet, but I'm willing to wager that's going to be resolved at the end of this book.
What do you? I think Leaf is his vampire.
The blood-sucking lawyer.
Yes, blood-sucking lawyer. I think Leaf is on Leaf's side.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. You're going to get to a part very soon, sir, in which it's obvious that he is. And it's basically a conversation like, yeah, and he basically accuses Atticus of being the same way. And he actually makes a very compelling argument. And you're like, oh, fuck, well, yeah, Atticus, way to go.
How many people aren't on their own side?
I don't know.
Flagellus?
Yeah, that's true. All right, so you're okay. So Ragnarok. There is one of the deities from the Irish pantheon who almost certainly will align with Loki, as he or she has been a very mischievous little shit. And it makes me wonder if there might be one other member of that pantheon who might come to the dark, or go to the dark side, rather.
I'm trying to think of who you're talking about.
Oh, well, you already know. I mean, you read Shattered, because that's kind of where that character was from the Irish.
Oh, did they?
What?
Did they live through that book?
The Irish pantheon?
No, the one you're talking about. Okay, never mind. We're gonna give spoilers.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
We're gonna do that.
They're like, those motherfuckers are being so cryptic right now. Quit talking shit. You're making no sense. Yeah, or probably not. Okay. Ragnar. That's the thing. Everybody else that he's mentioned has sort of come out of the blue associated with Loki. And that, I don't feel that's very spoilery, just because if you can look up Ragnarok and mythology, you know that Loki's the bad guy anyway. I don't know. I mean, who else would go to that side? I don't know. I almost want to, I hope there's a lot more to it than that. I guess is how I wanted to end our discussion about it. It's like, yeah, it's been a great ride so far. And he's actually turned these books out, in very prodigious manner. They've come out very, very quickly and successively. And I'm glad for that. And I just hope it ends in a less than obvious manner. How about that?
And I hope it ends fairly happily.
Well, I think all of them do. All the books really pretty much do. And I have no doubt that they will end happily. Although I'm starting to think a certain thing, so we'll see. Anyway.
Because I like happy endings. If you want sad endings, just watch the news. Okay, I think we can wrap this segment up. Nice little bow.
Rub my belly, scratch my back, take me out running in the grass. Tell me stories while you bathe me, maybe let me smell your ass. Give me sausages and bitches, cause they make the world go round. It's a secret to life, it's the wisdom of hound.
Well, hey there, gang. Long time no listen. It's an update to a podcast regarding the Iron Druid Chronicles that Jeffrey and I did a few years back before the final book of the series had been released. So I'm just going to read straight my review, and you can leave your like, love, dislike, hatred in comments and whatever else. So once again, give us a like and a listen. CultureCrows YouTube, or if you're listening via our SoundCloud, that's awesome too. And of course, as we add platforms, you can give likes on that. So here it is, my book 9 of the Iron Druid Chronicles review. The name of the novel is called Scourged, and it's the scourge of my bookshelf. I feel like I'm betraying the series to say this, betraying its characters, betraying Oberon, but Scourged is a mess start to finish. First, Hearne has had 8 previous and some novellas to set the table, but by the middle of the book, Hearne has stuck with the formula: character A goes to place A, speaks with character Z, insert conspicuous pop culture reference. They talk about Ragnarok. Character B goes to place B, speaks with character Y, insert inane pop culture reference. They talk about Ragnarok. Furthermore, the characters in this novel behave in ways which do not seem true to the characters throughout the entirety of the series, culminating in an ending that seems pasted on by an author who has grown tired of his creation. If one reads the reviews, Hearne gets a bad rap for the ending. It is deserved. There is a social consciousness at work that largely has not been present throughout the entirety of the series, but could still potentially pay off. But it's muddled and mishandled, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but trust me, it happens. Atticus could have been a world-weary curmudgeon after 2,000 years, yet Hearne has portrayed him as almost happy-go-lucky, and with his lovable hound, somehow, damn it all worked. At least it had. But to send Atticus away into virtual exile in order to, and I quote, think about what he's done, is insulting. Hearne did not give us an exciting or even a compelling conclusion. For finale, the faithful readers deserved better, and though it pains me to admit this, listen to the reviews here, Amazon, everywhere else, avoid the novel. It will only break your heart. So that's it. That's the conclusion of the Iron Druid series. It's a little sad that we have to go like that, but Hearne has broken his promise, his compact with his readers throughout a lengthy series, and if it was an effort to push this thing out so he could start on some other series, that's all well and good, but it came at such sacrifice that it almost lessens what comes before it. So that's my final opinion about it, and Jeffrey feels much the same way, and he patiently waited for me to read this for like a year before I finally got around to it. He's like, "Oh, finally we can talk about it. It's horrible, isn't it?" And then we sort of came to the same conclusion independently. So there you have it. As always, thank you very much.